Welcome one and all back to the Role Playing Channel, and today I'm going to be covering the difference in tactics used between the EUF, the Russian, and the United States in AORP, Age of Redemption. So basically, let's go ahead and start off with the US. So the US was more or less known for their air power during the war as well as their navy. They produced on a regular basis top-of-the-line ships and airplanes to be able to defend their coast and push their influence into Oceania and into the coasts of the EUF. And they use this to great effect with the plans like the Nimitz plan, for example, that was used to bombard Iceland and Greenland out of the war. Their ships were top of the line, and their soldiers were well equipped as well. Now, the problem was that the EUF soldiers, as the war progressed, actually started to pull ahead. They started to become better trained and better equipped than the average American soldier. Which brings us to the EUF. The EUF really became a little bit of a mixed pot. As one of their greatest strengths and weaknesses. It was not uncommon for them to start shooting each other because they heard a foreign language. That did not turn out too well several times and resulted in, well, soldiers dying unnecessarily. As the war went on, though, incidents like that happened less and less, and as communications improved. Aside from that, the EUF really was through everything, including the kitchen sink at the enemy. By the year 2040, they were putting remote control systems in airplanes and attaching some explosives to them to make anti-tank and anti-ship equipment out of standard civilian prop airplanes. They were so desperate for anything they could use that it was not uncommon to see those kind of instances. It was not uncommon to see cars set up as traps that would start rolling down hills with nowhere to go at enemy soldiers when they entered the streets. It was not uncommon for the EUF to throw in any ship that they could plop an artillery piece on and start using that later in the war, especially for smaller nations like Romania and Luxembourg and the Netherlands and the smaller nations. They were probably the ones that did it the most. But for every one of those, anything including the kitchen sink instances, the EUF also had an advanced task forces. Like the Germans produced some of the best tanks and vehicles during the war. The British produced some of the best ships as well. Not quite as good as the US, but still pretty darn good. France produced some of the best mechanized suits and reactive armors. Depends on tactics, but that was between Germany and France. Italy produced some of the best medical equipment in the war. Spain kind of got knocked out, but they produced some of the best light vehicles and reconnaissance vehicles during the war. So yeah, that pretty much covers the EUF. And last but not least, let's talk about Russia. Russia's tactics more or less were what they were in the past two world wars. So what they did is they deployed large numbers of men, just simply throwing away millions of soldiers of lives because they had all this territory and all of these men that they were, to them, disposable, especially in the early stages of the war. After the original cream of the crop of the Russian army was killed off in Poland, they started just throwing bodies into the situation. With their allied network, including Russia, China, and then India, after India fell, they had a nearly unlimited source of men. So what they would do is just send these massive, millions-strong attacks at the enemy. Not all of these soldiers were equipped. Some of them, in these, once again, the situation of one man gets the rifle, the other man gets the bullets, situations started popping up as well. Now, not to say that they didn't have advanced troops or they didn't have good equipment. They'd had equipment that was comparable to the other nations combined. They also were the ones that invented the magnetic gun, aka a railgun, and started using it in combat first. But the problem was they just didn't have the ability to train as some of these other nations or the logistics to do so. What they did have, so they brought all these men in from Siberia, poorly trained, to send at the enemy. But they did have some elite corps, like the what was it? The 23rd Bear Division, as they were referred to, which were comparable to the EOF 6th Division. They were elite troops equipped with some of the best technologies in the world. They were known as basically a mechanized infantry division that was able to hit the enemy hard, drop off their troops, and cause all kinds of chaos from deep within the enemy line. But yeah, I think that about covers it. Once again, thank you for checking in. I hope y'all click the like and subscribe button, and I hope y'all have a nice rest of your evening.